Hi, so I just want to personally welcome you. I'm Diana Gray. I'm the Community Marketing Manager for UiPath. And today we have Ian and Katie from the St. Louis chapter helping us. So you guys want to kick it off?
Yeah, thanks so much, Diana. Thanks
Yeah.
everyone for joining us for a reignition of the St. Louis chapter UiPath community. We had some good interest in this community and gathered a lot of information around topics. Wanted to start out today with an easy topic, just introducing RPA and talking about that as an overview. But before we get into that, we thought we'd do some introductions with folks. Yeah, thank you. And so for introductions, if you wouldn't mind coming off mute, just saying your name, your role, what company you're with, and your familiarity with RPA. So I will start. Katie Adastra. I am a senior client partner at Centric Consulting. So I handle a lot of our relationships in our St. Louis market. And I'm a beginner to RPA. I really just started to dig into it. I haven't created my own automation yet, but I have a lot of interest in it. And we have some great people here at Centric who've been teaching me about UiPath, and I'm looking forward to starting my first automation. So with that, I'm just going to move to Gary. You mind going? And then Gary, if you want to pick the next person, leave Ian for the last because he's going to kick off our next topic. You can pick the next person for intro after you go.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you. My name is Gary Vaughn. My role, I'm a senior automation engineer, and I mainly deal with training and educating of our citizen developers here at Mercy Hospital. And I'm pretty familiar with RPA. It's been about a 2-year journey right now, and hopefully I'm familiar enough with it to train other people. So we're doing pretty good over at Mercy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pick, I think, Diana to go next.
Sure. So I'm Diana. I'm the community marketing for UiPath. My interest in RPA is really working with the community. So just a little bit more about what I do is I work with not only the US, but Latin America and Canada. And we have about 30 MVPs that work with us to bring topics. So something you guys might be interested in is that, you know, if you're looking for the St. Louis chapter to talk about a certain thing, or you're looking for product people with a certain talent at UiPath, we're happy to try to make those relationships work and try to get you the most information we can. And so one of the things that's really important about a chapter like this is that you're able to, you know, communicate with each other and communicate to us about what your needs are, because we certainly are here to help you find what you're looking for in these meetings and make them productive. And so I'm going to pick Eric.
Thank you very much, Diana.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eric Wakefield. I am the account executive with UiPath. I've been actually working for UiPath for about 4.5 years. I am actually located in Omaha, but part of my territory is Missouri and St. Louis, obviously. And I just kind of came on, love hearing customers talk. And as customers talk, they bring up situations. I love to bring up ideas and references and be able to go back and do some research and see how some of our other clients have done it and be able to, you know, hopefully expand upon what they're looking to do too. So thank you very much for the invite and looking forward to the meeting.
Thanks, Eric. Ronnie, are you there? I don't see your video, but you know, if you wanted to unmute and then introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Rani. I'm working as a junior solution architect, and I work for Ametech Technologies, and it's been almost like 4 years like I'm working as an UiPath developer. That's it.
Thank you. DW or David?
No, that's fine. DW is fine. David Wilkinson here in St. Louis. I'm with Central Consulting, and my role is I'm a practice lead for operational excellence. Under that umbrella also includes process automation, so UiPath, something we deliver to our clients as well. Katie may have already shared that. So I do have pretty good familiarity with RPA. I, along with the group here, kind of co-lead this chapter. Now it's kind of a reboot with Katie and with Ian, but I previously led the chapter with another centric colleague of mine. So glad that we're kind of reestablishing the community and welcome to the group.
Awesome. Thank you all. I didn't see anyone else pop on. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ian to introduce himself and get us kicked off on our topic today.
All right, everybody. Welcome again officially. Glad to have everybody here. So our first official topic, introduction to RPA. So we'll get into that here in just a couple of moments. But first, give you guys a little bit of background on myself as well. So again, my name is Ian Wickline. I'm a senior trainer here within UiPath's Partner Enablement Division. Obviously, most excited to be here, and hopefully you guys are as well. A little bit about myself. I'm actually an experienced IT professional with over 20 years of industry experience. In addition to my daytime role, I actually serve as an adjunct professor specializing in computer science, information technology, and business management. Specifically, at some of the local universities, UMSL, SLU, and Fontbonne here in St. Louis, in addition to my alma mater, Millikan University, back in Decatur, Illinois. Let's just say my deep-rooted passion lies, in imparting knowledge, witnessing individuals enhance their understanding, in a specific topic or domain. So obviously a great pleasure to have the opportunity to guide each of you through our content here this afternoon. And really, across my, professional career, extensive knowledge in software development, ranging everywhere from legacy. Started my career out on the mainframes, the old green screens of years past, all the way up through modern day web development as of later years, and a lot of different data analytics roles along the way as well. Guys, I got into the point in my career I was burned out. I lost the passion, the energy, the excitement that I once had, for the software development industry and IT, until fortunately a few years ago along came the opportunity that I've been able to dive in and get head over heels, if you will, into UiPath and what I like to consider the development and training of UiPath-based robots. So let's just say when that moment hit, the excitement, the passion, the energy that I had for the IT industry was immediately rekindled at that point to where I'm at present day today. So, prior to joining UiPath, to kind of back up my UiPath experience a little bit more, actually, Gary and I worked together to kind of plug out the background that we've had. I was actually in a lead automation engineer role at Mercy, obviously the large hospital system here within St. Louis. My role there was actually accountable for the development of numerous UiPath-based automations, solution architecture, and many more UiPath-based automations. And Gary was talking about the training program. I actually passed that baton to him as a part of my exit from Mercy. So I actually was responsible for kind of culminating the original program that I know Gary's morphed and made way better than what I ever left it with, but I had the opportunity to educate the citizen developers there early on, think revenue financial analysts, even doctors and nurses, taking them through the platform. So allowing them to be successful with their first production-based and graded automations. So guys, I share all that background essentially to say, especially the UiPath-based technologies, I'm excited to be able to bring, again, those personal knowledge, expertise, and insights with each of you guys today. So, you guys ready to get started? Let's do it. So, introduction to RPA. So, a chance to introduce you guys to really just the fascinating world of RPA. We're going to stay really broad. We'll get into some UiPath specific, content, but really trying to even go broader than that. Let's just talk, broad industry, and we'll slowly kind of filter it down and bring it into the UiPath bubble that we're all typically accustomed to day in and day out. So hopefully everybody would agree with a lot of what I've got to share. Hopefully there'll be a couple of new nuggets of information that'll come across as well. Obviously RPA, hopefully it's a true story to say, obviously a rapidly growing technology. It definitely is transforming the way businesses are operating obviously becoming one of the huge catalysts for a lot of the digital transformations that are happening within organizations, in a global scheme of things, obviously here in St. Louis and then outward from there. So today we're going to talk about a lot of the fundamental concepts. We'll get into some history, some of the benefits, applications, some of the different jobs and roles that are baked inside of the RPA industry. Kind of understand how RPA is reshaping the industries, across the, again, that global landscape that we're talking about. We'll get into doing some brief conversations, into some of the roles, if you will, that artificial intelligence definitely starts to play into the RPA industry, as well as some of the kind of overviews of just how our, UiPath specifically plays into the broader industry and what it takes to ultimately get started. What's it going to take for you individually to, grasp, UiPath and bring it into your tool set, obviously, hopefully within your respective organizations as well. So what's it going to take to be able to utilize, UiPath based technologies accordingly. So and then by the time we close, we'll kind of run over a brief overview of kind of, what's that future, mindset starting to look like, and what's the industry got coming and hopefully the not too distant future. So kind of a crystal ball type moment, if you will, and kind of think about it from that perspective. So guys, as I start to dig into the content too, let's keep it collaborative too. So I've got a lot of talking to do. This is definitely more of a lecture focus presentation, but if, as I start talking, feel free to, drop in nuggets, that you guys may, personally, experiences that you may have, questions that you might have, etc. So don't let this be all about me talking for the next 30 minutes or so. So we'll try to keep it, as collaborative as we can, but it's definitely a more theoretical based presentation today. I'll promise you, as we have future events, we'll definitely get more and more hands-on and actually have you guys getting a bit more engaged from more of an actual hands-on application type perspective. So starting here today, kind of give you a vision of what's to come tomorrow. So anywho, overview, introduction of RPA, the who, when, where, why, and how, along those lines. So, what exactly is robotic process automation, or RPA for short? We're simply talking about the use of software-based robots, or a lot of people simply refer to them as bots, to automate, repetitive rules-based type tasks within an organization, a business. And obviously these bots designed to try to mimic, if you will, those human interactions, ultimately interacting with those software applications and systems, that are used day in and day out in all kinds of business process, business processing, across the world. Trying to, what's the goal behind it all? Trying to have that, increased efficiency, accuracy, productivity, in the respective organizations. A lot of people hear robots right away and they're like, and I remember this when I first got involved with UiPath, years ago. Where's the physical robot at? You want to see the cool arms swinging, and all that. The bad news is we're not about physical robots. There's not an actual cool robot, clacking the keys. It's all software, or what we like to almost think of as virtual robots. They exist in the digital realm. They essentially lives in your system tray and your workstation to really make it kind of a simplistic, point of view that way. So again, though, the key idea behind RPA, trying to automate those mundane, repetitive tasks, traditionally performed by the humans. And a lot of people then get into the panic mode here of, oh, well, we're talking about taking away people's jobs. No. Let's demystify that theory and concept right up front. The goal of this technology is not to take away jobs. It's all about trying to free up people's time. Why? We want we want workers today to be able to focus their time on more strategic, mission critical, value added activities in an organization. So if we can relinquish that load of those mundane type tasks, the goal to slide, those same resources across to really being able to pick up those higher value tasks that we just can't get to. We don't have the time to get to, but there's the value there in our organizations to ultimately be able to bring that capability to the table. So by leveraging RPA, the whole idea of organizations trying to achieve that higher level of operational efficiency. Obviously with coming with that, you're going to have some built-in cost savings. And that's obviously one of the key things that we want to get to. And kind of, second to that, hopefully also coming with it, an improved customer experience across the board by leveraging this type of technologies. So a little bit of history. Hopefully maybe some little nuggets in here that folks have never really thought about. RPA, where did it all kind of trace its roots back to? So kind of late 2000s, early 2000, or didn't say that right. Kind of the late 1990s and kind of then getting into the early 2000s. So where did it all start? It originally kind of was pioneered with this idea of screen scraping, or what we called macro automation, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. This whole idea of, what we kind of think of today as modern day screen scraping type tools. That's really kind of the time frame in IT history. That this type of tool set began to emerge as kind of a means to be able to extract data out of, I said mainframe earlier, right? Out of those legacy systems, the old green screen days. I even went back and got to thinking about that. Some of the early IT, gigs that I had was doing exactly that. UiPath wasn't even a thing at this point. UiPath wasn't pioneered back until 2005 in context of what we're talking about here. So this is even kind of pre, UiPath days, ultimately trying to capture that information off those displayed screens, those green screens. These tools trying to really get into some of that basic automation though, trying to record, replay, a lot of those user interactions, what we back then referred to as simple macros. But that was really the onset, the beginnings, if you will, the precursors to modern day RPA as we formally know it, present day today. So we get into that mid 2000s timeframe, we start to introduce this idea of desktop automation. That's really when desktop automation began to, in its infancy stage, began to really gain some of the popularity as to what we've got present day. Software vendors started developing solutions. You heard me say just a moment ago, 2005 is when UiPath started to enter the marketplace for the very first time. So when we start talking about software vendors, that's obviously where we as an organization kind of got our start. All about trying to automate tasks at that user interface level. So now even starting to migrate away from legacy systems and really thinking, Windows workstation, from a knowledge worker age. What's that robot interaction start looking like? Being able to interact with the applications in a similar fashion or similar manner to how a human would. And that's starting to get you to what we're accustomed to day in and day out, modern day today. But kind of giving an idea of where that was all seated at back kind of in the mid 2000s. Again, the tools trying to provide that more robust, scalable approach to automation, and compared to the old screen scraping days of before. And then as we started to get into kind of the early 2010s, into the 20 teens, if you will, that's where the term robotic process automation started to really gain traction at that point. Obviously kind of bringing us into modern day today. That's when, RPA was really kind of recognized as a distinct category of automation. Again, trying to automate those rule-based repetitive type tasks performed by the humans. Emphasis here on software robots trying to mimic, again, those human actions, within the user interface. All about that end-to-end process automation, kicking in. And as RPA gained significant momentum, organizations obviously realizing the potential automations, trying to improve, the efficiencies, bringing the costs hopefully back down. That's when, a lot of the leading RPA vendors, obviously including UiPath, got to mention some of the competitors, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, kind of in the same landscape as kind of the big three, if you will, in the industry. That's when they all really began to emerge on the market, kind of really mainstreamed, as respective organizations across the board. So kind of that 10-year ramp up, if you want to think about it that way, kind of leading to where we're at modern day, especially across the three key vendors that are out there. Obviously, a few others that I've omitted from the list. There's several key players out there in the space these days. But ultimately bringing their RPA platforms solutions to the table in a more formal state. And when when those companies ultimately adopted that, that's where that technology really got that wider gained adoption across all kinds of industries. We'll get into some deeper conversations as to what some of those specific industries are here in just a couple of moments. Kind of bringing it into almost a true modern day where we're at, this whole idea of advancements now in artificial intelligence and more of this cognitive type automation. It's kind of where we're in this pendulum right now, kind of the next emerging thing, and we're going to definitely do a little bit of a deeper dive into this concept towards the later parts of our conversation here. But this integration of modern day artificial intelligence technologies with RPA, and kind of what that mashup of those two industries, or I should say really industries, technologies are ultimately trying to bring. How can we further expand RPA capabilities? Obviously some of the potential applications of RPA with that intersection of artificial intelligence. So, start thinking about the idea and then the AI bubble of things, the ideas of, natural language processing, machine learning, computer vision, based software robots, trying to handle, deal with unstructured type data as opposed to a lot of the finite structured type data that I think a lot of us are probably all very accustomed to working with every single day. All about trying to make more of an intelligent decision rather than those kind of rules-based decisions of days gone by. Trying to handle more of a cognitive type task, but albeit through the use of a robot. We're starting to, with that idea, introduce this idea of intelligent automation modern day today, and then kind of the emergence of this new buzzword of intelligent automation, or a lot of times you hear people even start to refer to it as hyper automation. Again, that combination of that mashup between RPA and artificial intelligence and machine learning, bringing some of that advanced technologies to the table. So, the whole idea, the aimed approach here, trying to enhance the automation capabilities, allowing our robots essentially to handle more of the complex problems and processes, trying to learn from the data in our respective organizations and environment, adapt to changing scenarios as time moves along. So you deploy a solution today, what's that solution look like 6 months or a year from now? Can we leverage, the historical data that robot's processed over time and hopefully evolve and allow that robot essentially to kind of learn from its past through the use of, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all about trying to hit that end-to-end automation capability on down the road. So, continuous innovation, expansion, RPA, obviously with what we've talked about to this point, it's evolving rapidly. A lot of modern day advances, especially again, AI, machine learning kind of being the major game that we're currently in. Process mining is another topic that we could obviously get deeper into conversations. UiPath's got a flavor of that as well. A lot of the RPA vendors are getting into similar type tooling capabilities, trying to really invest heavily in kind of the research and development, aspects, trying to introduce new features, capabilities, different integration options that might be out there. So, the whole ecosystem around RPA is just, it's exploding right now. It's constantly emerging, with new automation marketplaces, developer communities. Hey, here we are right here, right, guys? And, definitely some of the specialized tools for, process discovery, well, some of the analytics capabilities as well. So hopefully it's a true statement to say that RPA is definitely a mainstream technology, obviously widespread adoption across multiple industries that we're going to get a little bit deeper into here in a couple of moments. All about, again, trying to improve the operational efficiencies, focusing on the higher value tasks. So start talking about some of the benefits. Some of these we've already kind of dabbled in, at least in kind of theoretical, conversations. So, why should an organization pick up and start leveraging the use of RPA within their respective organizations? The idea of increased efficiency. One of the cool things with RPA, it allows organizations to execute their tasks, obviously, at a much faster pace compared to what the human is capable of, delivering the solutions. You ever want your workforce to operate 24/7 without taking any breaks? Guess what our robots get to do? These robots don't take breaks. They'll run 24/7, 365 and be happy as a clam about it. Trying to, again, reduce that processing time, trying to eliminate delays in the daily, work grind, that, the work tasks that ultimately need to be completed. All about increasing that throughput, and ultimately the improved productivity that comes along with that. Hey guys, we're all human, right? On the call. Are you guys prone to any error by chance? We're all perfect and flawless as individuals, right? Well, let's just say the reality to that, we're all error prone, right? That's just the fact of being human. Especially when we get into, think of the manual, redundant, repetitive tasks, that humans do. And what's that error rate look like in your organization with the humans doing the work? It's not a good, bad, wrong, and different type thing. That's just reality. Well, what's cool though with our robots is our robots afford us that, that higher level of accuracy and consistency by following those predefined rules and guidelines that we, the RPA developers, bring to the table. So hopefully, by the use of the robot, reducing our errors, organizations trying to reduce or minimize rework that needs to happen day in and day out. trying to improve the data quality in your respective organizations. And ultimately talking about enhancing the customer satisfaction. Try to bring those levels up as well. Remember, we're talking about trying to reduce the manual labor, all the repetitive tasks. Obviously, the law that comes with that is a cost savings. Hopefully, a significant cost savings at that. All about trying to automate the processes, trying to optimize the resource allocations that we all have. I hate using the word reducing staffing requirements. It's shifting staffing requirements. Allocate the human talent to the more strategic initiatives that are inside your respective organization.
Ian?
Yes.
I'm going to give you a break by speaking up a little bit. I love that. And a lot of the companies that I talk to, they don't want to go forward, at least publicly, with, hey, we want to repurpose people into other areas and get rid of some of the manual effort. But so occasionally, especially in the current economy, there are CFOs and CEOs that say, I want to reduce, our staffing by X%. I was reading Spirit Aerosystems annual report, and one of their initiatives for 2023 was reduce their staffing by 1,000 people of the thousands and thousands of employees that they have. And in that case, that's where you use RPA to see, okay, where can we get rid of some of those manual tasks to meet the guidelines that the executive and the board of directors set forward. So I love, my first inclination is go in there with repurpose and upscale employees and things, but in some situations, reducing staff is a necessary evil too.
Exactly. Yep. No, definitely. So appreciate the added perspective there, Eric. Thank you. So one of the other, benefits, this idea of scalability. Build a solution once, right? And then to be able to deploy those robots multiple times over again. That's one of the cool aspects of this technology. Trying to allow organizations to scale the operations quickly and efficiently. As the business volumes increase, we can do the same thing with our software robots. We can easily deploy them to handle that additional workload over time. Scalability, trying to ensure that organizations can meet that growing consumer demand, but without compromising on the quality or potentially even the speed on the opposite side of it. One of the other cool aspects of RPA too, the idea of compliance and auditability, trying to, have that enhanced compliance auditability, being able to maintain a detailed log of all the automated activities. So one of the cool things that kind of runs behind the scenes, obviously depending on how your developers actually set up the robot and trained the robot, there's a very robust logging system behind the platform, allowing for that traceability. But what actually happened in that manual business process that's now been automated, allowing organizations to actually monitor and track every step of a process. Obviously, depending on the level of reporting that you put in behind the scenes with some of the logging, as to how extensively detailed that level of information can get. But all about trying to provide that transparency, facilitating, potential regulatory compliance that might be out there. So kind of some added value add, kind of through that particular lens right there. All right, we talked about kind of, different organizations, different applications. So this is just a brief, high level, small subset of just a sampling of a few industries. Obviously, we could spend a half hour on this slide if we started listing them all out. So just a very brief, brain dump right here when I put this particular slide together, just different applications, industries, that RPA could potentially be slotted or slided into. So obviously, finance accounting is probably one of the huge ones, trying to automate tasks such as invoice processing, accounts payable, accounts receivable, bank reconciliations, some of the different financial reporting that's out there. But again, the idea of trying to automate these processes, trying to reduce the errors, improve the accuracy, and ultimately streamlining, the different financial operations that might exist in the respective organizations. From an HR perspective, trying to, help out with some of the employee onboarding, offboarding, some of the payroll processing that might exist. What about leave management, compliance reporting, from an HR point of view, trying to free up the HR department's valuable time allow those HR professionals to focus on the more strategic initiatives, talent management, employee engagement, and less on the day-to-day grind, if you will, from a paper pushing type process. Customer service industry, and that obviously can apply to all kinds of different segments, but trying to automate customer service tasks, think small chat support, order processing, some of the data entry needs that might exist from a customer service perspective. Allowing organizations, that faster response time, hopefully improving the customer satisfaction, freeing up those human agents so they can handle those more complex customer problems or situations that might be brewing out there, as opposed to focusing on, again, those mundane, repetitive type, mind-numbing type tasks that are needed. They're critical to the organization. Otherwise, why are we doing it? But free them to have those more hands-on interactions with those complex customer situations when and where they do occur. Supply chain, logistics, type operations. How can we deal again more with the automation of inventory management, order tracking? What about some of the shipment statuses and some of the updates that might need to be made along those pipelines? Some of the different warehouse operations that might exist as well. Automating some of those processes, trying to optimize the supply chain, reducing again errors, improving the overall efficiency of the whole supply chain logistical operations within the respective organization. And Gary and I can attest to this one: healthcare. All kinds of crazy use cases out there. Trying to automate tasks, patient registration stuff, claims type processing that's out there, appointment scheduling, medical records management. Trying to automate everything under the sun, under the healthcare bubble. Well, we'll give Gary the floor in one of these future weeks, and you could expand on this one in an hour-long conversation easily. But all the administrative burdens that come along with healthcare, trying to again improve the data accuracy. All about what we're trying to enhance the patient care on the back end side. And like I said, amongst many, many more industries, this is just a Cliff Notes version of obviously the deeper conversation that we could get into there. Again, kind of maybe more of a, just talking about it through for more of an application perspective across the industries, some of the different use cases that might be out there. So some of these we kind of dabbled talking about, on the last slide. Again, the idea, just the data entry and the migration that might be out there from a data entry type perspective, trying to automate, extract, the data from different sources, validate and format, the data that's coming across, and potentially populate it into, future downstream target, applications or systems. Again, we're trying to reduce the manual effort and improve the accuracy, and picture the human trying to do manual data entry and migration. All about trying to speed up the overall data processing. Again, we briefly talked about the idea of invoice, process, purchase order type processing, trying to, streamline handling the invoice purchase orders that are out there. Allow the robot essentially to automatically extract some of the key relevant information, validate that information, sync it up, match it up with other invoice, purchase order information, and potentially, handle the actual payment processing on the opposite side. Again, trying to eliminate the manual data entry, reducing the errors, trying to accelerate that entire invoice to payment cycle that might exist within your respective organization. The idea of, generating reports, we can actually set up robots to automate the generation of reports, be able to pull data from different sources, multiple, disparate sources, across your organization. Hey, all my data's in this database over here, a handful of flat files over here, and on a handful of, user interface screens on the opposite side. All right, let's go see any of the amazing data analytics tools go out and be successful at this point. You guys see where I'm going with this idea? Let's stick a robot in the middle of this process, though, and allow the robot to go out and fetch all the data and then bring it into one of these, data analytics applications instead. So that's kind of what we're getting at here. It's not necessarily going to be the report tool, it's not going to be the actual one that's going to deliver the actual report, but let it go out and be your data fetcher, if you want to think of it from that point of view. Some of the calculations that might need to be able to, be done kind of on a pre-data, perspective. Trying to, again, all about generating those customized reports based on all the different formats or sources that data may ultimately be coming from. All about trying to save time. Again, consistency, organizational efficiency, operations, real-time insights for the decision making that might need to happen in your organization. financial accounting processes. We talked about that a little bit ago. Again, your accounts payable, receivable, bank reconciliation, some of the financial statements that are out there for compliance reporting. Again, some of the data extraction, some of the processing that's out there. Think about all the data in our world these days. That's really in more of a unstructured type format. Think about all the emails and chat conversations, that are out there, Slack conversations, Teams conversations, etc. Plus, even taking it into maybe a bit more of a structured, still yet considered unstructured invoices, contracts, different forms that are out there. Well, it's awesome, and we'll get into a little conversation of that here in just a couple of moments. This idea of allowing robots, to work in with, optical character recognition or OCR type technologies, or combining it up with machine learning algorithms, trying to pull that relevant information out and be able to validate that data up against predefined rules. This type of automation, getting into more of a document type intensive process, trying to, again, reduce some of the manual effort and, and enhance some of the data accuracy coming out of that. Some of the, IT operation and support. Think about all the things that your IT department's responsible for doing in, day out. Think about provisioning user accounts, resetting passwords, some of the system monitoring that might need to take place for software installations. Given the opportunity, the robot can handle all these, particular tasks, obviously much more quickly, much more accurately, efficiently, trying to reduce downtime, improve some of the IT service delivery that your organization might have. And then obviously more from a broad perspective, what we got into talking about a few moments ago, compliance regulatory type processing. So, all the different compliance regulations requirements that we might have. Think about all the different use cases that you might be able to bring in and ultimately automate some of those tasks for all things regulatory in nature, data privacy, some of the audit trail that comes along with, again, with some of the login reporting that comes out of the back end side of the processing that the robots do for us. So again, just a few examples of how RPA obviously can be applied across various industries, different functions. I want to kind of skim through here, some of the different various jobs. There's many different hats that folks can wear within the within the RPA industry. So I think probably the one that I would imagine most of us are probably all accustomed to, your typical RPA developer or engineer, or what I really like to refer to as kind of unofficially the trainer of robots. Obviously the ones that are responsible for doing the designing, the developing, the implementation of the actual solutions. You get into more of an RPA analyst, really just trying to analyze, the business processes, identifying, the opportunities, for potential automation. Your actual RPA architects on the opposite side, getting into really that technical expertise, the guidance, how do we actually ensure the scalability, the reliability, the performance of the actual RPA implementations that, as they move forward. You're working really close with the developers and the actual more on the business side stakeholders, trying to define all the integration points and so on there. A lot of folks out in the space carry more of a title of RPA consultant, talking more of just that advisory services to organizations, potentially interested in adopting RPA. Project management is obviously a huge factor and play into the whole RPA bubble as well. Definitely try to oversee the planning, execution, the monitoring of all the different RPA projects that an organization might be, ultimately trying to implement. Getting into an RPA solution architect type role, again, kind of similar to the RPA architect that we talked about. Again, talking more from a really trying to understand more of the business requirements, working on the existing systems that we've got. So think more on the foreground, trying to design the workflows. So along those lines, business analysts, obviously trying to be that bridge, the gap between business and IT, trying to gather a lot of the business requirements, try to analyze some of the processes, translate them into more of a technical spec that our RPA developers will ultimately be able to consume and understand when they go to, quote, train the robots downstream. So implementation specialists, this is going to be the folks that are more on the infrastructure side. So, actually responsible for deploying and configuring the solutions when they move into, your test and production environments within your organization. Actually doing the installation of the software, setting up the environments, configuring the robots, along those lines. So, your process analysts that are out there, really trying to analyze the process, some of the documentation, and try to figure out where the pain points might be at, try to, bring in some recommendations, how we might be able to improve, the current state of an existing, business process that's out there. really doing a lot of the collaboration between the business teams, trying to optimize those processes, trying to identify, where our automation opportunities might potentially exist. And then obviously the management side of the house. So really trying to have somebody responsible for the day-to-day operations of the RPA systems, kind of in a holistic, fashion from that point of view. The performance of the running automations, be able to manage the different robot schedules that are out there. And again, ultimately trying to ensure the stability, reliability, of all the different workflows under the sun. As we established kind of at the early onset, obviously artificial intelligence is playing a growing and really an emerging significant role in trying to enhance the capabilities of RPA solutions. And the idea is, how can we integrate RPA technologies into our RPA workflows, and ultimately trying to allow organizations to achieve really more of an enhanced automation, intelligent decision-making type solutions. So some of the key aspects when we start talking about, bringing in artificial intelligence into the RPA bubble, probably the most common one right now really wraps itself in and around natural language processing, or what we refer to as NLP. The whole idea of trying to teach, if you will, or train our software robots to understand and process human language. And through natural language processing, the idea of allowing robots to actually be able to analyze unstructured data, think the emails, chat logs that we talked about, documents, how can we extract the meaning out of those messages and ultimately be able to make a response accordingly, depending on whatever that business process might be. How can we automate tasks wrapped in and around the understanding of modern day natural language? Sentiment analysis, actually potentially even interject a chatbot and allow a robot to have that human conversation with a real human. We're getting there. There are some use cases already out there in the world that are doing it.
Ian, I got kind of a neat example.
Sure.
And I have to be careful because I can't share company names or anything, but it's a payroll processor that gets, customers that you will email in, when they have issues with their paycheck, on their pay stub or the numbers or anything else, and they get hundreds, if not thousands, of emails a day. And so they actually hooked up using UiPath to ChatGPT to draft a response. And they're also using our communications mining tool, which is our artificial intelligence tool, to understand the intent and the question of it. And then they go to ChatGPT and they say, write a response to this question and this intent of it. Now, they don't have it straight through because nobody trusts ChatGPT enough for a straight through process. But then it goes to a human and the human goes through it, because if you think about it, half the battle is just coming up with what to type from a response standpoint. And so ChatGPT gives an outline of what to type, then they can customize it, see what they need to improve. And it's actually increased the speed of this process by about 60%. So, there's a lot of tools out there, and by utilizing it, there is some significant savings that you can derive from the process.
Oh, that's awesome. Yep. There's all kinds of amazing use cases that are just, and they're, like I said, this is all like earth shattering, happening live as we're talking here. This is all modern day, kind of where we're at right now with the technical stack of RPA right now. Where did all begin? It's kind of where computer vision, it's tied to artificial intelligence and RPA, but this is really kind of where UiPath got its roots way back at the very, very beginning. This whole notion of computer vision, trying to allow software-based robots to perceive, and interpret visual information, images, pictures, videos, screenshots, through the use of what we refer to as, computer vision, allowing the robot essentially to be able to read and extract information from those images, identify objects in a photo, be able to automate some of the tasks that require that visual analysis that, typically would be done by a human. Machine learning, just kind of in more of a general type sense, this idea of allowing software-based robots to learn from data, be able to make predictions or decisions based on patterns, and insights that have been gleaned from that data. All about trying to train our robots to, recognize and classify data and automate, data extraction from, again, those unstructured sources, try to optimize process workflows based on, the historical data that's been processed, before. This whole idea of, continuous improvement, be able to constantly improve these machine learning models. Again, trying to allow the robot to become that much more efficient long-term later on down the road. Obviously, the more information, trying to enhance the accuracy, the efficiency of the RPA that goes along with that. the whole idea of just this idea of cognitive automation, trying to combine RPA with the AI technologies, trying to enable that more advanced, automation instead of that black and white, very defined path. How do you allow the robot essentially just to begin to operate in the gray a bit, handle those more complex tasks that require reasoning or learning, decision making, more that cognitive type thought process that goes into that. Think about all the error exception handling, of years gone by. How can we start to allow the robot to potentially get involved in some of those old legacy error exception handling type moments of automations of years past? We've talked about, the idea of intelligent document processing, or OCR. Again, think about the paper documents of the world. The idea of allowing robots to be able to analyze documents like invoices or purchase orders, contracts, be able to essentially extract the relevant information and be able to populate that information that's been extracted into downstream, appropriate systems that might need to be the recipient of that type of data. Again, all about trying to improve the accuracy, the manual efforts, and accelerate the document intensive type processes accordingly. Predictive analytics is, trying to talk about forecasting outcomes, be able to make data driven decisions, looking again at more of the historical data, trying to find trends and be able to predict future events, trying to allow organizations to optimize, potentially resource allocations, anticipating the needs of a customer, through that historical data, proactively try to potentially be able to address potential issues before those issues actually become issues. And this whole idea of just this intelligent automation, all the different components, all these pre-built AI components, trying to easily integrate them into our automation workflows. All these components, try to make them as ready and easy to use as possible. Text analysis, image recognition, sentiment analysis, everything that we kind of talked about here over the last couple of moments. Trying to incorporate all these capabilities, AI components, allowing these robots to be able to perform those more advanced intelligent type tasks within their respective automation processes. So let's turn a little bit. We've kind of talked about RPA. It wouldn't be fitting if we didn't talk about UiPath specifically, and obviously a UiPath community forum. So obviously talking about UiPath and being one of the obviously leading players in the industry. We're obviously an enterprise level RPA platform trying to provide, a comprehensive set of tools, capabilities, to be able to design, deploy, manage software-based robots, all wrapped in and around a user-friendly interface. Robust set of features. We're all about trying to gain that widespread popularity, used by numerous organizations across, you name the industry. The sky's the limit there. One of the key strengths of UiPath, obviously the ability to automate, a wide range of processes. We've already kind of established that in some of our conversation here today, whether it be, the data entry, report generation, invoice processing, customer onboarding. UiPath can handle it all, and we've proven it over time. Our platform, supports a variety of application systems, desktop, web, gets into Citrix-based environments. Essentially to say, highly versatile, very adaptable to all kinds of different business requirements that might be thrown at it. Very visual, very intuitive development environment known as UiPath Studio. UiPath Studio is really, think of it as our IDE from a technical developer point of view. It's our tool that allows users, our end users, to be able to create their automations, build the workflows. And it's all done via a really cool drag and drop interface. Trying to make it accessible for both, those hardcore developers, kind of like me of years past, but even the non-technical users. You heard me introduce myself earlier at the beginning saying I've trained doctors and nurses how to use this technology and successfully. Anybody can do it. I guarantee it from what I've seen. It's open to the world. UiPath, we provide a very rich library, a lot of pre-built activities, templates, all about trying to provide that rapid development deployment of the different automation solutions that are out there. UiPath, all about trying to incorporate the advanced technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning to enhance capabilities. So we have what we refer to as AI Center, trying to enable that integration, that intersection, if you will, between, intelligent automation components, the natural language processing, computer vision that we've talked about. Ultimately trying to bring that type of, capability into our traditional automation workflows, allowing the robot, again, the ability to perform those complex tasks involving the more decision making, data extraction and analysis accordingly. In our stack, we've got a solution called Orchestrator. It's really a centralized platform for managing, monitoring our robots at scale. The orchestrator is all about really trying to provide features of scheduling, but we get into talking about queue management. There's even some built-in analytics capabilities directly inside Orchestrator, all about trying to enable organizations to really effectively manage their automation initiatives, be able to track performance. You know, how well are your robots doing? So kind of being able to keep that scorecard, if you will. You know, all about trying to provide that holistic view, though, of your entire automation landscape, all the processing that's going on, making it easier, hopefully, to identify bottlenecks, try to optimize your workflows, you know, and ultimately ensure some of the compliance capabilities on the opposite side. You know, we've got an extremely vibrant, supportive community. We're on it right now, right, guys? But there, outside of this, if you've ever been out on, you know, our community website, there's just a plethora of knowledge at your fingertips and disposal. You know, the UiPath Community Edition is essentially a free version, if you will, of Studio, allowing individuals, small organizations access to the platform at no cost. You know, trying to encourage that learning, just experiment, play around with the technology. You know, be able to innovate kind of at your leisure, if you will. You know, UiPath Forum Academy, it's a huge wealth of resources, tutorials, forums for our end users to be able to share their knowledge, you know, ultimately be able to seek help when you do have problems and issues, and ultimately try to stay up to speed and up to date, obviously with the latest and greatest inside of our UiPath bubble. Guys, hopefully everybody can attest to it. UiPath is a huge game changer in the world of RPA. You know, highly user-friendly interface, very extensive automation capabilities, tons and tons of integration points, you know, allowing for that advanced technologies to hopefully make it that preferred choice, you know, for organizations trying to streamline the operations, trying to drive a lot of the digital transformations that are out there. You know, some of the major components, some of the different suites of products that we've got. Obviously, we've talked about Studio really being that development environment, you know, where the actual workflows come to life. Orchestrator, we talked about really being that central platform, trying to manage, monitor the you know, robots that are executing at scale. You know, we've talked about robots. It's kind of a built-in you know, product that obviously kind of runs the landscape. You know, the robots being really the agents that are doing the actual work, actually executing the processes that were designed and developed back in Studio. And we've got a whole plethora of different types of robots that I'm not going to get into with the time that we've got here today. We've talked about Studio. We actually have a product out there that's kind of rolled into Studio called Studio X. It's trying to really simplify UiPath Studio, trying to make it even easier for those non-technical users to be able to ultimately develop their solutions accordingly. We've got a platform out there called UiPath Apps, really more of another low-code type platform, trying to enable users to build more custom business applications without actually having to write any actual logic or code. Really trying to create more of a user-friendly interface and workflow. Again, trying to provide that, you know, integration point, you know, different data, different systems, and ultimately be able to deploy applications across multiple devices. We talked about AI Center, really being that integrated platform, you know, trying to allow users to deploy, you know, some of the AI capabilities, the different models, you know, directly inside of the actual workflows that are being engineered inside of Studio. Document Understanding is a whole, you know, separate, you know, product with a specialization in trying to, you know, leverage artificial intelligence, machine learning to extract data from unstructured documents. You heard us talk a little bit before, you know, invoices, purchase orders, contracts, that type of paper, you know, and allow the automation of those documents, you know, allow that data extraction to feed downstream systems accordingly. Test Suite's one of our other products. It's kind of a comprehensive testing, you know, framework for RPA, but also can be used in application software development as well. Again, the whole idea of, you know, trying to perform automated testing, you know, with the use of our software robots, trying to get some of the detailed analytics reporting out of that as well. You know, Automation Hub, you know, collaborative platform trying to manage, prioritize different automation ideas within an organization and trying to facilitate, again, what solutions are we going to potentially automate? And this Automation Hub really provides kind of a centralized repository location for the organization to be able to kind of submit ideas, you know, to that particular location for tracking and managing automation projects downstream. And then we talked about a lot of analytics. We've got a tool called Insights that really handles a lot of the analytics reporting, trying to provide actionable insights to how well your automation is actually performing, executing, get those business metrics, real-time dashboards, etc., along the lines there. If you're trying to learn UiPath for the first time, I'll kind of let this slide speak for itself. I'm looking at the clock and realize we're starting to really run close on time here. But we got UiPath Academy out there. That's an awesome spot. That's actually where I began my career and kind of learning UiPath for the first time. So you got the web address here, academy.uipath.com. Inside the Academy, there's actually a course called RPA Foundations. So feel free to pull it up once you get into Academy. Definitely a great spot to get started. UiPath Studio Guide and Documentation. So all of our products, you'll find there'll be a docs.uipath.com/ our product name, and there's always going to be a deep dive for every single product that we offer under that portfolio. Obviously, as with anything, hands-on practice is always going to lead to the best results. But to do that, feel free to pull down again the community edition. I actually got a direct link that'll take you to that spot. If you go out on YouTube, UiPath's got our own YouTube channel, but I'll tell you what, out in the broader community, there are just gobs and gobs of YouTube videos that will teach you everything you'll ever want to know about putting a robot to work. So feel free to leverage those. We do have some industry level certifications. There's a link here that will guide you into that whole avenue there. So I'd highly encourage long-term that you consider potentially going down and pursuing one of the industry-wide range certifications. Hey guys, we're participating in one of the UiPath events right here. So you've already checked that box. But definitely today we'll have many more to come. There's obviously some that are more on more of a national scale too. So feel free to tune into some of those capabilities. And again, practice, practice, practice. You can't reiterate that point enough. That's obviously what's going to lead to the best. Some of the kind of closing thoughts here, down to the last 30 seconds here. Where in the world is this industry heading? And I think we've already probably addressed a lot of these points here. Some of it's already kind of happening right now, live time. Again, this idea of intelligent automation, trying to bring in the AI, the machine learning, natural language processing. It's happening. It's here. It's today. And now this whole idea of hyper automation, trying to integrate multiple automation technologies, RPA, AI, machine learning, process mining. We briefly talked about some of the analytics, trying to get this holistic approach, allowing organizations to achieve the end-to-end automation, trying to combine all the different tools, technologies that are out there. And we talked a little bit about process discovery, process mining that's out there. So there's a whole developing theme in the industry right now of ways of trying to identify inefficiencies in the day-to-day operations, trying to suggest automation opportunities, some of the different tools and techniques that are out there. Everything's kind of pushed to the cloud. We've got a whole cloud presence out there. So obviously cloud-based, solutions becoming more and more prevalent as time goes along. Obviously get more and more on the citizen developer side as well. Guys, I'm flat running out of time. I want to be respectful to your guys' time. So we talked about a little bit of a lot of stuff. So it's no doubt RPA is definitely revolutionizing the way businesses operate, automating those repetitive tasks, improving the efficiencies, and driving the digital transformation. So guys, thanks for your attention. Hope the introduction to RPA has hopefully provided some valuable insights into just that broader world of automation, and obviously the profound impact that it's having on industries on a global scale.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. That was great. I always take away something from, I don't know how many overview I sat in, but it was really informative. Appreciate the time and effort you put in that. I put in the chat, and I think we did ask folks who registered what topics of interest they had, and the one that really bubbled to the top was document understanding. So in true community fashion, we heard you, and we are going to provide an overview of document understanding on our next meeting, which is going to be again the third Wednesday of next month, July 19th, between 4 and 5 Central Time. So we'll send a link out to that shortly, and I hope you all enjoyed this. And thank you so much for coming. And Eric said to me, while this may be a pebble right now, it will turn into a boulder with all of us, and all of us contributing and telling our friends and really bringing forward topics of interest so that we can build our community together. Thanks all.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank
And
you.
All right.
Leon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
take care,
everybody for
guys.
coming.
See ya.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Cheers
thanks
all. Have a good
again.
one. Yep, absolutely. My pleasure. We'll see you guys next month.
Sounds good.
Yep. Cheers all.
Bye.